Dr. Hansol stared at the holographic message floating above his desk. His dark eyes reflected the red emergency lights flashing across the projection. The message was simple but terrifying. Unknown virus. Multiple systems affected. Death rate, 98%. Humans immune. Help needed. He ran his fingers through his gray-streaked hair and checked the message sender again. It was from the Galactic Council itself, the highest authority in known space. In his 20 years as Earth's top disease expert, he had never received such a direct request from them. The door to his lab slid open with a soft hiss. Dr. Yuna walked in, carrying 2 steaming cups of coffee. She had been his research partner for the past 5 years, and her quick thinking had saved many lives during the Mars colony flu outbreak. "You look like you've seen a ghost," she said, placing 1 cup on his desk. The steam rose between them in the cool air of the lab. "Maybe worse than a ghost," Hansol replied. He turned the hologram so she could read it. Her eyes widened as she took in the message. 98% death rate, she whispered. "That's almost perfect killing efficiency. How many are dead?" Hansol pressed a button, and more data filled the air around them. Numbers, charts, and pictures of different alien species appeared. 3 million so far. 6 systems infected. It started on a trade world called Nexus Prime. The images showed scenes that made both scientists catch their breath. The streets of alien cities were empty. Medical centers were overflowing. Ships sat abandoned in spaceports. But most shocking were the medical scans showing how the virus attacked its victims. "Look at this," Hansol pointed to one scan. "It attacks the neural pathways first. By all normal rules, it should affect humans too. But for some reason, we're completely immune." Yuna leaned closer to the scans, her coffee forgotten. "The pattern looks familiar somehow, like something I've seen before, but I can't place it." Their lab computer beeped suddenly. A new message appeared. A live transmission request from the Galactic Council. Hansol pressed accept, and the face of a tall, blue-skinned alien appeared before them. "Dr. Hansol, Dr. Yuna." The alien spoke in perfect standard English. "I am Coordinator Rayan. We need you to come to Nexus Prime immediately. A ship is already on its way to Earth. Will you help us?" Hansol and Yuna shared a quick look. They both knew what going to an infected planet meant. Even with human immunity, they would be walking into the middle of the worst pandemic the galaxy had ever seen. "We'll need to bring our equipment," Yuna said, "and samples from our labs. And full access to all your data," Hansol added. "Everything you know about this virus." Rayan nodded. "You'll have whatever you need. The ship will arrive in 6 hours. And doctors." The alien's face showed what could only be fear. "Please hurry. We're losing worlds by the day." After the transmission ended, Hansol and Yuna spent no time waiting. They began packing equipment, checking supplies, and downloading data. Their lab came alive with activity as other staff helped prepare for their departure. "I never thought I'd say this," Yuna said as she carefully packed viral samples, "but I'm glad I caught that bad cold last month. At least we know we're immune to whatever this is." Hansol paused in his work. "What did you just say?" "About being immune? We know humans can't catch this virus." "No, about your cold." Hansol's eyes lit up with sudden interest. "When exactly did you have it?" "About 3 weeks ago." "Why?" Hansol quickly pulled up more data from the Galactic Council. "The virus started spreading 4 weeks ago, and humans are the only species immune." He looked at Yuna with growing excitement. What if there's a connection? Before they could explore the idea further, an alert sounded throughout the lab. The Galactic Council ship had arrived early. Through the lab's windows, they could see its sleek form descending from the sky. "We'll figure it out on the way," Yuna said, closing the last sample case. "Right now, we have a galaxy to save." Hansol nodded, picking up his medical bag. As they walked toward the exit, he couldn't help but smile a little. Humans had always been seen as the galaxy's newcomers, the primitive species from a death world. Now they might be its only hope. The ship landed on Nexus Prime under dark purple skies. Dr. Hansol and Dr. Yuna stepped out wearing simple protective suits, even though they knew they were immune. Old habits died hard for people who worked with deadly diseases. The spaceport was empty except for a small group waiting for them. Governor Kita stood at the front, his gray skin looking pale even for his species. He was one of the few government officials still alive on the planet. "Thank you for coming," Kita said, his translator making his words sound flat and tired. "We've lost another 1,000 since we sent the message yesterday." Hansol looked around at the quiet spaceport. Abandoned luggage sat everywhere. Emergency lights flashed on empty ships. The whole place felt like a tomb. "Take us to your main medical center," Yuna said, adjusting the heavy case of equipment she carried. "We need to see the patients and your research." The ride to the medical center was silent. Through the transport's windows, they saw empty streets and closed buildings. Warning signs flashed everywhere. QUARANTINENEFFEC and stay in your homes. "How fast does it kill?" Hansol asked, breaking the silence. Kita's shoulders dropped. 3 days from first symptoms. The lucky ones die in 2. He pointed to a large building ahead. "We're here." The medical center was chaos. Doctors and nurses from different species rushed around, wearing heavy protection suits. Patients filled every room and hallway. Some lay very still. Others shook with fever or called out in different languages. A doctor named Hewan met them at the entrance. Her long tentacles moved quickly as she spoke. "We've tried everything. All known medicines, all treatments. Nothing works. The virus just keeps killing." Yuna set up their equipment while Hansol looked at patient records. The virus was strange. It ignored basic biological rules. It killed smart species and simple ones, rich worlds and poor ones. Nothing stopped it. "Look at this," Yuma called out. She was studying a blood sample through their advanced microscope. "The virus changes shape when it attacks cells. I've never seen anything like it." Hansol walked over to look. The virus particles on the screen were shifting, almost like they were dancing. "Run a comparison with our human blood samples," he said. Yuna placed a drop of her own blood on another slide. When she looked at it, she gasped. "The virus, it's trying to attack my blood cells. But something's stopping it. Something's already there." Hewan moved closer, her tentacles twisting with interest. "What's stopping it?" "I'm not sure," Yuna said. She adjusted some controls. "But look at the shape of these other viruses in my blood. The common ones all humans carry." Hansol suddenly grabbed her arm. "The cold virus. Remember what we talked about before leaving Earth? You had a cold right before this started." They worked faster after that, testing more samples, running more comparisons. With each test, they became more excited. "The cold virus in human blood," Hansol explained to Kita and Hewan. "It's not just living in our bodies. It's protecting us. Somehow, it's blocking this deadly virus from attacking our cells." "You mean?" Kita's translator crackled with emotion. "The thing that gives humans runny noses could save us." "Maybe," Yuna said, "but we need to be sure. And we need to figure out how to make it work for non-human bodies." A loud alarm suddenly rang through the building. More patients were arriving. Through the windows, they could see emergency vehicles floating down from the sky. "How long?" Hewan asked, her tentacles now very still. "How long to make a cure?" Hansol looked at the new patients being carried in, at the tired doctors, at the worried faces of Kita and Hewan. Then he looked at Yuma, who nodded slightly. "We'll work as fast as we can," he said. "But first, we need to call Earth. We're going to need a lot of cold viruses." Outside the medical center, the purple sky was getting darker. Somewhere up there, the virus was spreading to more worlds. But for the first time since it appeared, there was hope. Sometimes the best cures came from the strangest places, even from a simple cold from a death world called Earth. Dr. Yuna hadn't slept in 2 days. Her eyes were tired from looking through microscopes, but she couldn't stop now. Not when they were so close to understanding why the cold virus protected humans. The lab they had set up in the medical center was filled with equipment from Earth. Screens showed different tests running. Samples of human blood sat next to alien blood in special containers. Empty coffee cups were everywhere. Hansol, she called out suddenly. Come look at this. Dr. Hansol rushed over from his workstation. His usually neat hair was messy from running his hands through it too many times. What did you find? Yuna pointed to her screen. Watch what happens when I mix the cold virus with the deadly virus in human blood. They both watched as the cold virus particles moved toward the deadly virus. Instead of fighting, the cold virus seemed to wrap around the deadly one, making it harmless. It's not killing it, Hansol said, his eyes wide. It's hugging it to death. Better than that, Yuna smiled. The cold virus is teaching our immune system how to fight the deadly one. That's why humans are immune. We've been training our whole lives without knowing it. A noise at the door made them turn. Governor Kita stood there with Dr. Hawan. Both looked tired. The number of sick people had doubled since yesterday. Did you find something? Kita asked. His translator couldn't hide the hope in his voice. We did, Yuna said. She showed them the screen. The human cold virus doesn't just protect us. It could protect everyone. We just need to modify it for different species. Hawan moved closer, her tentacles reaching toward the screen. But our bodies are so different from yours. How can one virus help everyone? Hansol grabbed a data pad and started drawing. Think of it like teaching. The cold virus is like a teacher. It shows our immune system how to fight the deadly virus. We need to make different teachers for different students. Look, Yuna added. She pulled up more images. We've already started modifying the cold virus, making versions that can work in different alien bodies. She showed them test results. Modified cold viruses successfully protecting alien blood samples. It wasn't perfect yet, but it was working. Suddenly, all the screens in the lab started flashing red. An emergency message appeared. 3 more worlds had reported their first cases of the deadly virus. How long until you can make a working cure? Kita asked. Hansol looked at their data. The modified virus works in labs, but we need to test it on real patients. Make sure it's safe. That could take. We don't have time for normal testing. Hawan interrupted. Her tentacles were moving fast with worry. People are dying every minute. Yuna and Hansol shared a look. They knew she was right. Normal medical rules might have to be broken to save lives. I'll volunteer, Hawan said suddenly. Everyone turned to look at her. Test your modified cold virus on me. I'm already exposed to the deadly virus working here. If it works on me, others will trust it. It could be dangerous, Yuna warned. We haven't done all the safety tests. Everything is dangerous right now, Hawan replied. Her translator made her voice sound brave and scared at the same time. Hansol nodded slowly. We'll need more volunteers, different species, and we'll need help from Earth to make enough modified virus for everyone. He walked to the main computer and sent an emergency message to Earth. They needed more scientists, more labs, more supplies. They needed everything Earth could send. How fast can you start? Kita asked. Yuna was already preparing the first modified cold virus for Hawan. Right now, she said. But remember, this isn't just a normal shot. We're going to give you a cold to save your life. Outside the lab, the medical center was still full of sick people, but now there was hope. A simple human virus, one that had annoyed people on Earth for thousands of years, might be the galaxy's best chance for survival. Hawan sat down and held out one of her tentacles. I'm ready, she said. Give me your human cold. The Galactic Council meeting room was huge. Hundreds of alien representatives sat in rising circles around a central platform. Dr. Hansol and Dr. Yuna stood on this platform, feeling very small. High Commander Du Hyun looked down at them from his tall chair. His crystal body sparkled as he moved, but his voice was cold. You want us to infect everyone with a human virus. Are you insane? It's not insane, Hansol said firmly. The modified cold virus works. We have proof. He showed images of Ha-1 and the other volunteers. They were all healthy now, protected from the deadly virus. But many council members just turned away from the pictures. Proof. A representative shouted. You tested it on only 50 people. We have billions to protect. Yuna stepped forward. Those 50 people were from 20 different species. All of them survived. All of them are now immune. The room filled with angry voices. Some council members stood up, their various appendages moving in upset ways. Others started leaving the room. Silence. Du Hyun's voice boomed through the chamber. He looked at the two human doctors. You don't understand. Your species is new to space. You don't know our history with plagues, with bioweapons. Hansol felt his patience breaking. While we argue, people are dying. The virus has reached 15 more worlds since we started this meeting. A new voice spoke up. It was Rayan, the blue-skinned alien who had first contacted them. Perhaps we should listen. The humans have shown they want to help. Help. Another council member laughed. They want to spread their diseases to us. First their deadly virus, now their cold virus. We didn't make the deadly virus. Yuna shouted back. The room went quiet at her outburst, but we can stop it, if you let us. Do Hyun leaned forward in his chair. How do we know this cure won't be worse than the disease? How do we know it won't mutate, change, kill us all in new ways? Hansol pulled out his datapad. Because we've lived with these cold viruses for thousands of years. They're annoying, yes. They make us sneeze and cough, but they don't kill us. Instead, they've helped make us stronger. He showed new images, the inside of human cells, protected by cold viruses. Alien cells now gaining the same protection. The deadly virus stopped in its tracks. Look at the numbers, Yuna added. The death rate is still 98%, but everyone who got our modified cold virus has lived. Everyone. Rayan stood up. I say we vote. Right now. Before more worlds fall. Do Hyun's crystal body flickered with different colors as he thought. Finally, he nodded. A vote then, but not for full approval. For a larger test, 1,000 volunteers from each major species. That's not enough. Hansol protested. By the time we finish those tests. It's something, Yuna whispered to him. We can prove it works with more numbers. Show them all that it's safe. The vote was close. Very close. But in the end, they got permission for their bigger test. 1,000 volunteers from each species would get the modified cold virus. As they left the council chamber, Hansol and Yuna felt tired but hopeful. They had a chance now. A small one, but still a chance. They're scared, Yuna said as they walked. Scared of us, of Earth, of our diseases. They should be, Hansol replied. Earth is dangerous, but that's what made us strong. And now that strength can save them. Their data pads beeped at the same time. New messages from the medical center on Nexus Prime. More volunteers were signing up. More people willing to trust the crazy human cure. Come on, Hansol said, walking faster. We have work to do, colds to give, lives to save. Behind them, the council members were still arguing, but ahead of them was hope. Sometimes the best medicines didn't come from the most advanced worlds. Sometimes they came from the places everyone else feared. Places like Earth. Medical Officer Jin'e stood before the 1,000 volunteers in the huge testing center on Nexus Prime. Her scales glittered under the bright lights as she spoke to the crowd. You are brave, she said, her translator making her voice clear to all species present. Each of you represents hope for your people. Dr. Hansol and Dr. Yuna watched from a side room, checking the final preparations. The modified cold viruses were ready, each one specially made for different alien bodies. "Are you sure about the dosage?" Yuna asked, looking at her data pad for the 100th time. Hansol nodded. "We tested it dozens of times. Small enough to be safe, strong enough to work." The first group of volunteers stepped forward. They were tall creatures with 4 arms and green skin. Their species had lost 3 colonies to the deadly virus already. Jin-A gave each one a shot of their modified cold virus. The volunteers waited in special rooms where doctors could watch them carefully. "Now we wait," Hansol said. But they didn't have to wait long. After 6 hours, the first sneezes started. The green-skinned aliens looked confused. None of their species had ever sneezed before. "Is this normal?" Jin-A asked, watching the aliens rub their noses with their many hands. Yuna smiled. "Perfectly normal. It means the cold virus is working, teaching their bodies how to fight." The next group was different. They looked like walking crystals, like High Commander Do-hyun. Their modified cold virus made them change colors when they coughed. Hour after hour, more groups got their shots. Some got fevers, some got runny noses, some just felt tired. But they all stayed alive. "Look at this," Hansol called out on the second day. He pointed to a screen showing test results. Their bodies are already making defenses against the deadly virus. But not everything went perfectly. One group, the floating cloud-like aliens, had a bad reaction. They turned dark gray and felt very sick. "Stop the tests," Jin-A ordered. Everyone rushed to help the cloud aliens. Yuna worked fast, studying what went wrong. "The cold virus is too strong for them," she said. "We need to make it weaker." They worked through the night, fixing the problem. By morning, they had a new version that worked safely for the cloud aliens too. "This is why we test," Hansol told the worried volunteers. "We find the problems. We fix them. We make sure everyone is safe." After 5 days, they had amazing news. When they tested all the volunteers against the deadly virus, none of them got sick. The modified cold viruses had worked. Jin-A called a meeting with all the volunteers. Many were still sniffling or coughing, but they were happy. "You did it," one crystal alien said, glowing bright blue with joy. "We can't get the deadly virus now." "And the cold symptoms?" Jin-A asked. "How do you feel about them?" A green-skinned alien laughed, using all 4 arms to wipe his nose. "A runny nose is better than dying." Hansol sent all the test results to the Galactic Council. The numbers were clear. 1,000 volunteers from 50 species. All protected. All safe. "Now they have to let us give it to everyone," Yuna said. "We have proof it works." But then their data pads beeped with bad news. 10 more worlds had reported cases of the deadly virus. Time was running out. Jin-A looked at the test results, then at the volunteers. "We need to work faster," she said. "Many more will die if we wait too long." Hansol watched the volunteers talking to each other, sharing their stories of sneezes and coughs. These aliens had trusted Earth medicine, even though it seemed strange to them. "We'll save them," he said, one cold at a time. Outside the testing center, ships were already landing with more volunteers. More species wanting protection. More people willing to try the crazy human cure. Sometimes the best medicine was the simplest one, even if it made you sneeze. Young researcher Sung Min rushed into the main lab, nearly dropping his datapad. "Dr. Hansol, Dr. Yuna, we have a problem." Both senior doctors looked up from their work. They had been studying results from new worlds hit by the deadly virus. "The modified cold virus isn't working on the sand people of Dex 4, Sung Min said, showing them his screen. "Their bodies are too different. They need something else." Hansol rubbed his tired eyes. This was the 3rd species this week that needed a special version of the cure. Each new alien body type meant more work, more testing, more time. "How many sand people have died?" Yuna asked quietly. 200,000, some men replied. And they're dying faster than other species. The lab was busy with workers from Earth and other worlds. Everyone was trying to make enough cure for the galaxy, but they kept finding new problems. Show me their biology, Hansol said. Some men pulled up images of the Sand People's cells. They were strange, like shifting crystals made of living sand. Yuna moved closer to look. Their cells don't work like others. Regular cold viruses can't teach them anything. But maybe. Some men's eyes lit up. He typed quickly on his datapad. What if we use the viruses that infect Earth's desert bacteria? They're used to working with crystal-like structures. They worked for hours, testing different desert viruses. Finally, they found one that could work with the Sand People's strange cells. But while they worked on this problem, more bad news came. 20 more worlds had reported their first cases. The deadly virus was spreading faster than their cure. Medical Officer Jin-A came into the lab, looking worried. The Galactic Council wants an update. How many species can we help now? Hansol checked their records. We have working cures for 800 species, but there are over 2,000 species in known space. And each one needs its own version of the cure, Yuna added. We can't just use one type for everyone. Sung Min was still working at his station. Maybe we can make it faster. Look at this. He showed them a new way to test viruses, using smart computers from Earth. The computer can predict which virus will work best for each species, he explained. We don't have to test everything by hand anymore. It was a good idea. They quickly set up more computers, feeding them information about different alien species. The machines worked faster than any person could, but they still needed to make the cures, and they needed to get them to dying worlds. We need more labs, Hansol said. More ships, more everything. Jin-A's translator crackled as she spoke quickly. I just got a message. Earth is sending 50 more ships, and they're turning old factories into virus labs. Yuna looked surprised. Factories? How many? All of them, Jin-A said. Every factory that can be changed is now making your cold viruses. Earth is working together to save the galaxy. It was amazing news, but they still had to work fast. The deadly virus was killing millions every day. Sung Min's computer beeped. It had found the right virus matches for 100 more species. We can do this, he said. We can save them. Hansol looked at his team, at the humans and aliens working together, at the screens showing both death counts and hope. Start making the new cures, he ordered, and get them to the ships as fast as possible. Outside the lab, the sky was full of ships. Earth ships bringing supplies. Alien ships waiting for cures. Everyone working together. They were running out of time, but they weren't giving up. Sometimes the hardest part wasn't finding the cure. It was getting it to everyone who needed it. And Earth was good at getting things done, even if it meant turning their whole planet into one big medicine factory. Dr. Yuna couldn't believe what she was seeing in Dr. Minky's old research files. The answer had been there all along, hidden in studies from 20 years ago. Hansol, she called out, her voice excited. Come look at what Minky discovered about human immune systems. Dr. Hansol hurried over, followed by Sung Min and Medical Officer Jin-A. They all crowded around her screen. Minky found that human bodies don't just fight viruses, Yuna explained. They remember them, and they can teach other viruses how to fight too. The others looked confused. Jin-A's translator made a strange sound as she asked, How does this help us? Yuna pulled up more files. Look here. Minky created a way to make viruses share information, like teaching them to be teachers. So we can teach one virus to teach other viruses, Sung Min asked, his eyes getting wide. Exactly. Yuna smiled. We don't need different cures for every species. We need one cure that can learn and adapt. They worked for 3 days straight, using Minky's research to create something new, a special cold virus that could change itself to work in any alien body. Hansol tested it first on samples from the Sand People. The virus changed its shape, adapted to their crystal-like cells, and protected them. Try it on the Cloud aliens, Jin A suggested. They did. The virus adapted again, becoming perfect for their floating bodies. Some men ran more tests, species after species. The new virus worked for all of them. It was like having a universal translator, but for medicine. We need to tell the Galactic Council, Hansol said. But before they could send a message, the emergency alarms went off. Red lights flashed everywhere. A voice spoke in many languages. Warning. 30 new worlds infected. Death rate rising. Warning. They rushed to the communication room. The screen showed terrible pictures. More worlds falling to the deadly virus. More people dying. How fast can we make the new cure? Jin 8 asked. Hansol checked the production systems. The factories on Earth are ready. They just need the new design. Send it, Yuna said. Send it now. They transmitted the plans to Earth. Every factory, every lab, every medical center started working on the new universal cure. But they had another problem. The deadly virus was changing too. Getting stronger, moving faster between worlds. Look at this, some men pointed to new data. It's learning to spread through spaceships' air systems. They needed to work faster. Hansol sent messages to every world that still had working ships. They would need them all to deliver the cure. The first batches are ready, Yuna announced, reading reports from Earth. The factories worked all night. Ships are being loaded now. Jin A's translator made happy sounds. The council approved emergency distribution. Every ship in the galaxy can carry the cure. No waiting for permits. They watched the screens as ships took off from Earth. Hundreds of them. Thousands, each carrying boxes of the universal cure. Will we be fast enough? Some men asked quietly. Hansol looked at the death counts, still rising. At the maps showing the deadly virus spreading. At his tired team who had worked so hard. We have to be, he said. The cure works. We just need to get it to everyone. Yuna stood up suddenly. Then let's do more than send ships. Let's teach everyone how to make the cure. She was right. They sent the production plans to every world with working labs, taught them how to make the universal cure themselves. The screen started showing new numbers, ships leaving Earth, labs making cures on other worlds, people getting treatment. For the first time, the death count started to slow down. It's working, Jin'ei said softly. It's really working. They had found more than a cure. They had found a way to help the galaxy help itself. Sometimes the best solutions were the ones that could teach others to solve problems too. Now they just had to reach everyone in time. 1 month after they released the universal cure, Dr. Hansol stood before the Galactic Council again. This time, the room was full of healthy aliens, all of them saved by Earth's modified cold virus. High Commander Do-hyun's crystal body glowed with bright colors as he spoke. The death rate has dropped to 0 on all treated worlds. You did the impossible. Not impossible, Hansol said. Just unlikely. Sometimes the best answers come from strange places. The screens behind him showed the numbers. 5 billion lives saved. 3,000 worlds protected. Every species now carrying a version of Earth's cold virus, keeping them safe from the deadly one. Dr. Yuna stood next to him, watching ships on the screens. They were still delivering the cure to faraway worlds. Earth's factories were still making more. Tell us, Rayan asked from her seat, how many humans caught colds while making our cure? Yuna laughed. Almost everyone. You can't work with cold viruses without getting a few sneezes. The council chamber filled with different sounds. Laughing, clicking, humming. All the ways different species showed happiness. Medical Officer Jin'ei stepped forward. Her scales were shiny with health. But it wasn't just the cure that saved us. It was how freely Earth shared it. She was right. Earth had given everything. Their factories, their ships, their knowledge. They hadn't asked for payment or made demands. They had just helped. We learned something too. Some men added from his place near the data screens. Every species we helped taught us new things about viruses, about medicine, about life. The council members nodded. Working together had changed how everyone saw each other. Earth wasn't just the strange death world anymore. It was the world that had saved them all. And the sneezing. Du-hyun asked, his crystal form twinkling with amusement. Will we all catch colds now? Sometimes, Han-Sol admitted. But your bodies will learn to handle them, just like ours did. And those colds will keep protecting you. Yuma checked her datapad. More good news was coming in. The last faraway worlds were getting their cures. The deadly virus was disappearing everywhere it was found. We want to thank Earth, Rayan announced. The Council has decided to share our medical knowledge with humans. All of it. You gave us your best medicine. We will give you ours. It was an amazing offer. Earth would learn secrets of healing that could help humans live better, healthier lives. And we want to build research centers, Du-hyun added. Places where humans and aliens can work together. Study diseases, find cures, share knowledge. Han-Sol looked at his team. At Jin-ae, who had been brave enough to try the first cure. At Sung-min, who had helped make it work for everyone. At Yuma, who had found the answer in old research. We would be honored, he said. Outside the council chamber, the sky was full of ships again. But now they carried doctors and scientists, not emergency medicine. People working together to make the galaxy healthier. Some ships carried supplies to build the new research centers. Others brought alien medical technology to Earth. Everyone was sharing, learning, growing. Who would have thought? Yuna said as they watched. That our most annoying virus would save the galaxy. Han-Sol smiled. And who would have thought that being from a death world would turn out to be such a good thing? The deadly virus had tried to destroy the galaxy. Instead, it had brought everyone together, made them stronger, taught them to share their strengths and help with each other's weaknesses. Sometimes the best gifts came with a few sneezes, and sometimes the scariest places held the best surprises. Earth had given the galaxy more than a cure. It had given hope, trust, and a new way of working together. And somewhere, in a lab on Nexus Prime, a crystal alien sneezed for the first time and didn't mind at all.